And then a friend of mine called me on the phone and he said, I'd really like you to help me with my business. I said, that's very kind of you. Very gracious. I don't know anything about business. And besides, I'm trying to find the purpose of my life right now. But thanks for calling. Bye. Called again a couple of weeks later and he said, I'm serious about you helping me with my business. And I said, I thought I'd been clear. I'm not a business major. I don't know a lot about business. And I'm trying to find out what I'm doing here on this planet. It's really important to me. He called a third time. And the third time he called, I was kind of between exasperated and irritated. And I said to him, just why are you calling? This is your third call. And I'm confused because I think I've been pretty upfront and straightforward with you. And he said, well, you have, but I just have this really unshakable feeling that you're the one. I said, the one? He said, yeah, that you could really help me with my business. I said,
welcome to another episode of Life Coach Code. Today I have something truly extraordinary for you. Today I have a special guest, somebody that I respect so much and I honor so much. First of all, for the woman she is, and second, for all the things she has done for the coaching industry herself. So let me introduce her first. Her name is Cherie Carter Scott, and she is considered the mother of coaching. If you wondered where coaching itself came from, today you can hear it first from the heart and soul of the pioneer who made new footprints in the sand. Or as I said, as they call her, the mother of coaching. Her coaching career started back in the 1974, probably when people didn't even know what coaching, the word means, aside from sports. After almost 50 years of experience, she is now an author of over 19 books. Yes, 19 books. Mostly known for her book, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules, that was translated into 40 languages and sold over 5 million copies worldwide. She has trained thousands of executives, including corporate executives in Fortune 500 companies. She is a behavioral scientist, #1 New York Times and Amazon best-selling author, master certified coach by the ICF, thought leader, and a PhD. And among many appearances and things, she appeared also on Oprah. So it's truly an honor to have you here, Cherie, and welcome.
thank you, Dayon. I'm delighted to be here with you.
So let's jump right into the juicy questions for today. Today, the topic of today is Negaholics. It's the name one of your books, and it's also the topic that you're going to speak on the summit itself, on the Superhuman Summit. What is a negaholic?
A negaholic is a person who has a tendency towards negativity in thought, word, or behavior. And there are 4 different strains of negaholic. There's the mental, the attitudinal, the verbal, and the behavioral. The verbal are the easiest to hear. Behavioral are the easiest to observe. But the attitudinal and the mental are the ones who talk to themselves in negative ways most of the time. And a lot of people think that that's normal, that that's not negative or negaholic. It's normal behavior because they're realistic. But in fact, to the best of my knowledge and research, no one has been born a negaholic baby.
That's super interesting that you said, because a lot of people, a lot of psychologists, even a lot of scientists will debate the topic of how not to be negative by saying that we evolved a brain that's 80% negative, that no matter what you do, you will have negative thoughts just because your brain developed in a way to focus on the dangers around you, on what could go wrong, because that's what helped us survive in the past. So as descendants from people who survived in the savannas, from people who were looking for the tiger, not for people who were thinking positive, because those were probably eaten when danger was all around you. So we are descendants from the people who were the most paranoid ones. So we are carrying their biology. And they will say that because of this, our brain developed in a way that most of our thoughts are negative. So what would you say for this argument?
Well, I would say that the argument between nature and nurture has been going on forever. And whether you believe that people are born in a certain proclivity or that they are nurtured towards a certain proclivity, my contention is that babies are born into the world pure and happy by and large. And it has everything to do with how they're nurtured, how they're nourished, how they're loved or ignored or neglected, that have to do with their orientation to positive or negative.
Yeah, so I have also observed people who are from different cultures, who were raised to be positive, happy individuals, who were raised to love nature and live among animals and live on a, for example, on a farm and grow their own food. And I'm observing a lot more happiness and positivity in these individuals compared to somebody who was born within the capital city and stuck in this circulation of what you should do, learn this so you can get your diploma, so you can find the work, so you can build your career. So they're always busy chasing something outside of themselves, in a way trained and grown in a much different way than people who were grown on a farm. And I'm also observing that, as you say, nature versus nurture. Nurture has a big impact on how not just our biology, but how our mindset is developed, how our mind is developed, and how we will keep on living our life and what things we're gonna observe from the world around us. Do you have any maybe example of a person you worked with that they were from the one side of the world, let's say they were truly negative and you went through the work with them and they became a different person, and how that affected them?
Yeah, I have actually about a million examples, but I'll just choose one for today. And the example is with a guy named Bob. And Bob worked for one of the companies that we were coaching and consulting in the last century. And it was a company in Des Moines, Iowa. And Bob was the art director. And nobody liked him. And people were looking in the paper to find other jobs and writing their resumes and trying to get out of the company because they used to call him Attila the Bob. And that meant that he was probably one of the most negative people, finding fault with everything people did. Now, Bob didn't think of himself as a negaholic. Bob thought of himself as somebody who was teaching people standards of excellence. And the more that he would reinforce what they did wrong, the more they would get the idea of what they would do right. It was kind of an old theory from another century of how to be able to develop people towards excellence. In any case, we did our employee-owned change survey with the group, and what came out was a lot of finger pointing towards Bob. Bob is a problem. Bob is toxic. Bob is extremely difficult to work with. He's brilliant, he's gifted, he's talented, but he's a pain in the neck. And so we sat down with Bob's boss and with Bob and with the information from the survey that we did. And it was unequivocally pointing to Bob being a problem. And so his boss, Doris, said to him, you know, there are three options here, Bob. Number one, you could just work with machines. We could put you with computers and machines and keep you away from people. That's one option. She said, the second option is we could give you a pink slip and say a severance package and say, thanks for being here. We appreciated having you, but it's not going to work out in the long term. And the third option, Bob, is we could give you a coach to help you change your behaviors and your attitude and the way you interact with your staff and different departments. And he thought about it and he said, I want to coach. I want to stay. I don't want to be isolated with machines. I want to be with people, but I want to learn and grow. And I'm open to it. This was a very significant moment because Bob said, I want to learn and grow. I'm open to becoming a different person. We worked with Bob, our team worked with Bob for 18 months. And it wasn't easy because there were times when he was very resistant and attached to his old ways of behaving and arguing for his limitations. And there were times when, we could play back to him, either because there was a video taken that somebody approved or there was an audio. In any case, we went to meetings with him, we attended them, we gave him feedback privately afterwards about what he said that might have offended people, the way he behaved, his body language, ways that he would diminish people consistently. And because he was open to it, a miracle happened. And the miracle that happened was that Bob, after 18 months, got an award of Employee of the Year. And in our opinion, that was nothing short of a miracle. And what Bob said to me, and when I said, congratulations, this is wonderful, he said, well, the coaching really enlightened me. It illuminated my behavior that I was unconscious of. And he said, through the coaching, I've become a better manager, a better leader. Actually, I've become a better dad to my twin daughters. I've become a better husband. I think really I've become a better human being. And he said, I didn't imagine that that was even possible. But people actually like me now, and they like being around me, and they like working with me. He said, so we've done a big, big change here, and I'm very grateful.
Over 25 experts will work with you to teach you how to shape reality at your will, become financially abundant, align with your higher self, activate the supercomputer in your head, heal on every level, unleash the hidden reservoirs of energy, strength, and vitality, improve all your relationships, learn to listen to your inner GPS that knows the past, present, and future. Become the ultimate creator of your life. Our promise to you is that the information inside the summit you cannot find anywhere else. This is not an event. It's a start of a journey. The fate of humanity is in your hands. Are you ready to make the most important choice of your life? In every life that will come from your DNA, what path will you take?
I'm seeing in my life also brilliant people who have so much potential, yet because of their behavior, because maybe they're a little more negative, and we can debate why they're negative. Maybe it's because this is their defense mechanism of trying to keep their excellence while defending from whatever. Anyway, these people have so much potential, yet they are not where they can be in life, just because other people are perceiving them that there is something wrong with them. Even we have the tendency to not cheer for the negative guy, to just say, yeah, they're good, but because they're negative. And no matter how much excellent you are, if you carry this negativity with you, and you can call it whatever you want, you can call it you're just being realistic, or you're just being scientific, or you're just being keeping to standards. You can justify it however you want, but you are not seeing, you're blind to the way it's preventing you from achieving even more excellence. Because the key part, whatever you do in life, is how other people are also perceiving you. And no matter how much you know, how much you're excellent, how much you master something, if you cannot make other people like you with whatever you do, you will still be 1 to 5, 10 steps behind what you can actually be, just because of what you call being realistic. But it's actually negativity. It's actually a way of expressing your negative side of the world. I'm not focusing more on the positive side. However, when we speak about big people, like big people on big positions that a tiny mistake can result in so much, let's say, damage to the company. They have so much pressure on their back. And I guess a lot of the techniques they use can be perceived as them being negative, but they're just using them to prevent from mistakes happening, or be quick on time, to save time. Because if somebody makes a mistake and you're sitting with them and try to explain and they don't understand, I guess the human default way is to just be short and to say it directly. And maybe you're gonna seem to be a little negative in this case. So how do you find the balance when you are in a position of high power to keep your positive attitude and behavior, but still be surgical in your decisions and making people understand your decisions better?
I think a lot of it has to do with one's orientation to developing people. So if they have an old theory X orientation, people don't want to come to work, they don't like to work, you have to force them to work. If you have that orientation, you're going to have a negative outlook from the get-go. And you don't want to be taking that into the situation because everybody's going to be negative. If you have the orientation of the theory Y manager, people like to work, people like coming to work, like people like taking responsibility for work. If you have that orientation, it makes it a lot easier to develop people with that framework, because you're not going to look at them like they came to work, but I've got to force them to work. It looks like it came to work and I get to work with them and working on a project that they're going to feel a sense of creativity, contribution, making a difference. They're going to feel excited about it. So the orientation to reality, whether it's negative or positive, has everything to do with the way the manager manages the employee, which has to do with the way the employee manages others and interfaces with customers as well. As a matter of fact, one little sidebar here, not having to do with Negaholics, but I wrote my dissertation on the relationship between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. And over 3 years, I worked with 5 different companies in their ways of treating the employee and how that employee would then carry that same energy, doctrine, behavior onto the customer. And to a company, to a fault, it absolutely correlated. The way you treat your employees is the way they will treat your customers. It carries over from one to the other. And it was really fascinating proving that beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was absolutely the truth. Heretofore, it had been conjecture, but it absolutely got proven in my dissertation. And I was so excited about that because it wasn't like do unto your employees the opposite of how you want to treat their customers, because that creates cognitive dissonance. You know, act the way you are told to act, which is different than the way I'm treating you. And that makes people absolutely crazy. It makes them crazy. It's like, you're going to lie to me, but I have to tell the truth. You're going to be abusive to me, but I have to be kind. You're going to treat me as if I am nothing and don't exist. And yet I have to be cheerful, kind, supportive, and encouraging to my employees and my customers. Makes people crazy.
Yeah, totally agree. And if you can name one thing that's making people negative, what would that be? In their psyche, in their environment, what is the one thing that makes us be more negative?
Hopelessness.
Hopelessness in a way that they don't see hope in their life, in the world they're living, in the goals to achieve.
It could be anything. It could be that they don't see hope for themselves, hope for their environment, hope for their family, hope for their country, hope for their life, hope for the planet. I mean, it could be any level, but the hopelessness is the main, I say, virus of negativity that spreads from person to person. And when that spreads and people have that apathy, you know, it's kind of like, why bother? It doesn't make any difference. I don't make a difference. None of it makes a difference. Why bother? That is, it's the poison that
Mm.
infects people.
And yeah, so the cure, I guess, is to help people find more hope in their life.
Well, yeah, starting with themselves. And that's why, I don't want to start in with singing the praises of coaching, but I can barely hold myself back, because when people get coached, they climb out of the hopelessness and they start seeing the light, any kind of light, the light of hope. What could happen? What might happen? What could you do differently? What would you be willing to consider? I mean, all of a sudden, the shift goes from, I can't, it's not possible, there's no way, to maybe I could. What if I? We could maybe consider, I mean, that's the transformation that we're talking about here, is somebody going from this tunnel vision of hopelessness, opening up the blinders to say, there's a whole world. Wait a minute, I've just been looking at it wrong. There are possibilities that I haven't even considered because I've been so stuck in my tunnel vision. Wait a minute. And that is the excitement. That's when, people like Bob all of a sudden start seeing the light of what's possible with his attitude, with his behavior, with his verbal response to people, and watching people resonate to him and say, you're a great guy, Bob. Nobody had ever said that before. But he didn't think it was important until all of a sudden people said, it's important how you make us feel.
That's so beautiful. And I see in many people, not just in business, that, as you said, and I haven't thought of this before, hopelessness is really the key issue. No matter whether it's negativity in the family, or negativity in the business, negativity in the relationship, negativity with friends, it always comes down to you are not believing that there is meaning to do anything better, that there is no other option. And this is the trick the mind pulls on us, right? The mind tries to fool us that there is a limit, that there are limited amount of things we can do, and that's it. And we forget that we live in such an abundant world that exactly that's why the mind wants to put a limit, because it's so afraid of the absolute abundance around it. That there are more books that you can read, that even if you read one book per hour, you cannot even read 1% of all the books. There are more movies than you can watch 1% of the movies, more places than if you visit new place every day, you will not be able to visit even 0.01% of the places. More foods you can try, more activities you can do. There is so much abundance around you, so much money in the world, that even if you make $1 million per month, you will not make a dent into the world economy. It's so much, and your mind, because of so much abundance, it cannot grasp it, and it wants to put things into categories, into limits, so it's much easier to navigate life for our primal purposes, right? For survival and reproduction. So it's not helping us to actually move into thriving. We need to put a conscious effort to put ourselves in the different mode of thriving. That survival and reproduction, we finished that game. We won that game. It's easier right now than it was, let's say, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Now it's time for another level, for thriving. And for thriving, you need to open your mind to the possibilities, and finding hope that there is a way is the key. So what will you say, if you can say one thing, one sentence to somebody that's hopeless, to just nudge them in hopefulness? What will that be?
Is it bringing you what you want?
So powerful. And what if they say, it's not possible for me?
Sounds like you've given up.
That's it.
It's simple. You have to ask the person if they're ready, willing, and able to consider something different than what they already have. And that's the essence of it. Whenever I coach someone, ask them clearly, do you have a desire for something to be different than it is currently? Do you have a willingness to experiment with new things that you hadn't tried before? Do you have the belief that it's possible for you to make the seemingly impossible happen? And are you committed to stay with it, even when it gets uncomfortable or you want to give up hope? Because if you have desire, willingness, belief, and commitment, we've got a game to play. We can make this happen.
I love your answer. We have less than 1 minute, so let's jump on the other call so it's not cutting on our conversation, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna end this one. Okay, so let's jump into a different topic right now. As I said in the beginning, you wrote a bestseller. It's the book, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. And back then, from what I know, with your interview on Life Coach Code, you were in a difficult position in your life. You were kind of lost. Can you guide us through that period of your life and how you found your path? And then
Yes,
what made you write this brilliant book?
Okay, so back in 1974, my mother had died and I was 20, and my father had a kind of nervous breakdown, sold our family home, got remarried, moved to Florida, and I was at university at the time, and everything that I knew to be dependable, familiar, predictable, basically went poof, disappeared. So I didn't have a family home to go home to, and I didn't have parents that were there. And my father kind of decided that his children had had enough parenting and education, and he was going to go live his life now. And so I really didn't know what to do. Graduated from college, and I started teaching part-time. And I kept wondering, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? And I thought, well, my mother said I couldn't be a priest, and she said I couldn't be a teacher, and gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I started asking friends, what do you think I'd be good at? What do you think I should do? Now, as the case is, everybody always has an opinion, and they usually have an opinion about everybody else's life, about what they should do. So I got a lot of opinions from people, a lot. One person said, oh, you'd be really good in medicine. I thought, blood, science, not so sure about that. Another person said, you would be great at real estate. I thought, not really passionate about people's homes. It doesn't really light me up. Another person said, law. You would be great in a courtroom and you could debate people. You'd be good at that. I thought, I don't like laws really. I don't really want to be in the legal profession. It doesn't really resonate. Somebody else said, vitamins. You could sell vitamins to people because you're so interested in health. I thought, do I really want to sell vitamins? So I kept questioning everything that people said to me. And I was right back where I started from. No. I was kind of thinking I was negative, but nothing really stuck. And then a friend of mine called me on the phone and he said, I'd really like you to help me with my business. I said, that's very kind of you. Very gracious. I don't know anything about business. And besides, I'm trying to find the purpose of my life right now. But thanks for calling. Bye. Called again a couple of weeks later and he said, I'm serious about you helping me with my business. And I said, well, I thought I'd been clear. I'm not a business major. I don't know a lot about business. And I'm trying to find out what I'm doing here on this planet. It's really important to me. I said, oh, okay. He called a third time. And the third time he called, I was kind of between exasperated and irritated. And I said to him, just why are you calling? This is your third call. And I'm confused because I think I've been pretty upfront and straightforward with you. And he said, well, you have, but I just have this really unshakable feeling that you're the one. I said, the one? He said, yeah, that you could really help me with my business. I said, what gives you the idea that I that I could help you with your business. I mean, what gives you that clue? He said, well, for starters, I really trust you. I said, well, that's nice that you trust me, but I don't know anything. He said, that could be very helpful. And I said, you want to pay me your hard-earned money, knowing full well that I don't know anything? He said, that's right. And I said, well, then I accept. And he was my very first client. And as I went into his company and I asked questions and I watched and observed processes and people and interactions and systems, and then we met the end of the week and we met outside his office and he said, what did you notice? And I said, before I tell you what I noticed, he said, what? I said, before I tell you, I really need to know what it is that you want. He said, what I want? I said, yeah, there's a part of you that called me that's not really satisfied or happy with the way things are at this moment. He said, well, that's right. I said, well, let's explore that together. Let's find out what it is that you really want, that you ideally want, that would make your heart sing. Let's find that out. So we started exploring and talking about, his ideal picture and what it would look like. And he found out that he had two pictures. One picture that was, he wanted to run his business from hotel rooms around the world. And the second vision was that it was going to be an intimate, family-run company, cozy and connected and small, and run from his office and pitch up your shirt sleeves and jump in. I said, these are very different visions. He said, they are, aren't they? I said, one is huge and one is small. He said, no wonder I've got one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. I said, yeah, you're in high idle. You're sitting there kind of bouncing in the car, but you're not really going forward. I said, you need to make a choice, big or small. Whichever way you choose, you have to put your energy behind it and cause it to happen. Now, he left my office that day as if he had seen a vision. And he started telling people about his dear friend who asked the best questions. And the phone started to ring. And I thought to myself, I don't know what to say to these people. I have no idea what to say. They were saying, can you coach me about going back to school? Can you coach me about my relationship? Can you coach me about my children? Can you coach me? And I thought, gosh, I don't know what to say to them. I said, I will ask you questions that will help you connect to your truth. You will find and honor your truth. And then you can listen to it, trust it, and take the action steps. But I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to give you advice. Most people said, whatever you do it with me, because I hear you're terrific. And that was the beginning of coaching, 1974. Actually, yesterday, October 15th, 1974.
Whoa, it was yesterday. So it's 49 years anniversary yesterday.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
Oh my God, that's fascinating, by the way. Congratulations on your anniversary and 49 years in this industry. It's truly, in any industry, it's truly a lot. And you've been through many changes. You've been through many obstacles and many changes in this industry, but also in the world itself. How did you navigate everything during these 49 years?
Well, to encapsulate almost 50 years is a big task, and that's why I've put it into a book that's going to come out next year.
On the 50th anniversary, right?
Yeah, exactly. So most of the time, because I've had a very connected spiritual relationship throughout my life since I was a very tiny child. I've always felt close to God. And any particular God? No, just God, who is a supreme being above me, knows more, sees more, is more enlightened, is wiser than I am. That's how I define God. I've always turned to God and asked for advice, for guidance, for help, for direction, but mostly for messages. So when I was before Lloyd came to me and asked me for help with his business, I turned to God and I said, nobody's advice has paid off. I don't know where I'm going. In fact, I'm really lost. And what I need from you is I need a message that gives me some direction, some sense of what to do and where to go. It doesn't have to be a burning bush, but I'd like a message that's going to indicate that I'm on the right path. And I said that, and then I started getting messages. And they were illogical, irrational, unreasonable, inconvenient, and for sure a little bit strange. So the first message that I recalled getting was, you are a catalyst. Now, I didn't use that word catalyst very often, so I didn't know that I was that thing. But I looked it up and it said something that encourages other things to take action or to move. And I thought, well, I could think of myself as a catalyst. I could, yeah, maybe I'm something that gets things to be motivated, to take action, to move forward. A couple of weeks later, I got the second message. You are to work in growth and development. I knew what growth and development were, but there were a lot of different applications because I could finish furniture, which I was good at, could make lamps. I wasn't bad at that. I could do a lot of different things in growth and development, but I didn't really know what field exactly. And then 2 weeks later, the third message came and it said, you have a gift for working with people. So I put them all together and it said, I work with people on their growth and development, or I'm a catalyst who works with people on their growth and development, and I kept playing with the words over and over and over again. And then I got mad at God. And I said, I asked you for a message and you sent me this riddle. What am I going to do? Put it on my business card? I'm a catalyst who works with people on their growth and development. What kind of a statement is that? I mean, I really thought you were going to help me out here. And this is what you did. Now, it was right after that Lloyd called me and said, I want you to help me with my business. Now, all of a sudden, I'm slow sometimes. Finally, I made the connection in my brain. Lloyd, I'm a catalyst for his growth and development in his company. That's it. He was sent for me to be able to get the message and to make it clear. I get it now. Now, those messages started happening to me on a regular basis, especially when I asked for them. And when I asked for them, they would come. They would clearly come. And that's really how I navigated the last 49 years. And I always kind of go inside to a deeper place inside me and I say, I need direction, I need guidance, I need your help because my perspective is limited. I can't see from where I am. I need your wisdom to be able to guide my path. And always a message comes in the form of a person or something I see on the side of a bus or the tea bag or the little thing on the tea bag. It always comes. The messages always come because I'm open to them and because they're sent.
That's so important that you said humility. Humility is such an important thing, that to accept the fact that you are limited in your perspective and to give yourself to higher authority that's more knowing, more enlightened, as you say, than yourself. And this grand intelligence is always there around us. We are part of it, and we are all united within this intelligence. We all come from this intelligence. If you check our DNA, there is a certain language in our DNA, right? That something understands so it can produce our body. If you check the systems in nature, you cannot deny that they're not intelligent. Even if you check the cosmos, everything works in a perfect way, that there has to be some intelligence behind it. So this intelligence is all around us. We're entangled within this intelligence. And it's so important to understand this and to be humble and just allow this intelligence to speak through you. I want to understand, because I have a similar way to speaking with this intelligence, this God, the God, and it speaks to me in different ways, intuitively. And there is a certain sensation that I know right now that When I feel it, I know it's a message, as you say. What is the way that you are feeling these messages? Is there a specific emotion that you're linking with them, or is it just an inner knowing? How do you understand that something is a message?
Well, my perception of messages is that we get them in different ways depending upon what part of us is open to receive. So whether it's your intuition that's open to receive and it comes to you that way, or to me, it's whether it's a thought or a feeling or an experience, they come to us in ways where we are not closed. Because the messages, they can come in a variety of different ways. I mean, there are hundreds of ways that they can come to us, but mostly thoughts, feelings, perceptions, intuition, understanding other people. They can come to us in so many ways. But the key thing is, are we open to receiving them? And if we're open to receiving them, then there's a connection between the universal intelligence, as you were referring to, and our limited intelligence, something that allows us to be able to navigate the path that has not been traveled before. Because remember, when I started coaching, October 15th, 1974, there were no computers at all. There was no coach industry. There was nothing called coaching. I mean, I was sitting in a chair and people say, can I join you? Can I work with you? Can I be a part of your team? I said, I'm just sitting in a chair asking questions. That's it. And they'd say, well, can I hang out? Can I be around? Can I, I said, well, yeah, you can, but we have to ask the client if they will allow you to be in the room. But in those days, there was nothing. There was nothing. And I was in San Francisco and people were lining up around the block, literally, and saying, when can I have my session? And I felt uncomfortable. I felt humble, but I also felt like, am I doing anything wrong? Am I misrepresenting myself? Because I would say to people, you have the answers within you, and I will help you find them, but I don't have the answers for you. And that was what I kept saying, almost like a mantra over and over and over again to people. And they just didn't, they said, I don't care. It doesn't matter if you have more, I have more, somebody else says, I don't care. I just want the clarity. And from what I understand, your sessions are like, glass cleaner. You clean off the glass in my mind and I see clearly. And that's what I want. I want to see clearly what I do want. And I want to see the path forward. And I said, well, I can help you do that.
That's the essence of coaching, right? A lot of people confuse it that it's something to tell other people, to tell, do this, but the essence of coaching is, as you said, and as you paved the way itself for the coaching industry, it's questions. The better questions you ask, the better coach you are, because the answers are always within your clients, not within you. They know the answer. They don't have the clear path to them. So this is so profound, and I would love to speak with you for eternity if it's possible, but we don't have that much time on this podcast. So I want to ask you one more question, and then we're gonna sum up everything that we talked. You wrote your book, and you didn't plan that it's gonna be so huge, and you appeared on Oprah. How these events happened in your life? Did you receive a message? Did something guided you to do something, to write the book? How did you manage to appear on Oprah and then over a night, so to say, to sell over 400,000 copies?
Okay, so I wrote the Rules for Being Human in 1974. They were part of our coach training that I was designing to train people how to become the very best coaches they could be. Time passed between 1974 and 1998. And I had those Rules for Being Human, which they appeared in the first Chicken Soup for the Soul book on page 81, The Rules for Being Human by Anonymous. Now, part of my karma in life is to be invisible and anonymous. Don't ask me why. It's just part of working off karma from the past. But a friend of mine, Dan Millman, contacted Jack Canfield and said, Cherie did write these rules. I think you should give her credit. In the next printing, I talked to Jack. He gave me credit. And then people started calling me saying, can I use your rules for being human to write a book? I mentioned before, I'm a little slow at times. So I was thinking, well, who's the right person to write this book? I mean, they have to have great stories. They have to have the right tone. They have to be very connected to the reader. They have to be able to present information. And I started going through a whole list of criteria. And then all of a sudden it hit me. What if I'm supposed to write the book? Me. This is a really important book. And am I enough? Do I have enough to be able to impart this book to people? I mean, I had 30 people contact me about writing this book. And all of a sudden, when that thought came to me, maybe I'm supposed to write it. All the contact from all those people absolutely stopped dead. Not one person reached out after that moment. It was like, okay, I think I got the message. I think I'm supposed to write this book. And then I had to wrestle with the part of me that was confident and the part of me that was insecure, the part of me that was humble, and the part of me that was maybe a bit arrogant. I would wrestle with the different parts of me. And in wrestling with them, I had to find the real voice that wanted to be written in this book. And that was the book that, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. Now, when I wrote that book, and I wrote it with the support of lots of people, including Deborah Goldstein, who was like my alter ego, there was this moment where I was supposed to go on Oprah. But they were, oh, there's a big story breaking. We may not be doing it. We might be doing it. We might not be doing it. And so every day it's kind of on again, off again, on again, off again. And so my only message was, hold it lightly. If it's meant to be, it will. If it isn't meant to be, it's okay. Just let it go. But it's in God's hands. And then they called and they said, we want to do this story. We want to do this book. Can you come to Chicago and can you be on the show? It's Change Your Life TV. And Oprah's going to turn over the 1 hour show, the special to you. And you get to coach audience members. And I thought, angels, God, everybody who's passed over, be with me. I'm not certain I can do this without you. So went on the show, and it was a blessed moment. Oprah held up the book and she said, we need this book in every home in America. And the book had not been published yet. And it was, 650,000 copies in 2 days. And they were running the presses at Broadway Books, and the book wasn't out there. I didn't have any copies. The funniest thing was that Oprah, her office had called me and said, hey, can you get us 100 copies of If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules by tomorrow? We want to give it to the audience members, and they're going to be coming back for the show that you're going to be doing. And I, of course, without thinking, said, absolutely, absolutely. I didn't realize that there are no books in the stores. The books hadn't been distributed. They weren't around. I didn't have any books. I mean, nobody had any books. And I thought, oh God, here I've made a promise and I can't keep my promise. So I called Donna Gould, who was my publicist. And I said, Donna, I've done something terrible. I've made a promise that I can't possibly keep. And I feel really embarrassed. And can you help me out? She said, I'll get back to you. Hung up the phone, called me back within the hour. And she said, it's handled. I found books. Don't ask me how I found it, but I found books, and they're going to be overnighted to Chicago, and everything's going to work out. So sleep well tonight. Well, it was one of those great moments because none of us does anything alone. We all make everything happen with each other. And that's the key thing that I had to understand, and everybody around me did, that it's not about me. It's about all of us. It's about us doing the right thing. It's about us listening and trusting and honoring each other, and not being about our egos, but about doing the right thing for the greatest number of people. That's one of the reasons I love coaching so much, because it's about doing the right thing with one person at a time, when they listen to their heart and their soul and their spirit and their mind and their body. And all of that gives them information. as to which direction they should go. I'm passionate about coaching. I never will stop talking about it because I love it so much.
That's so beautiful, and I share your passion too. That's one of the main reasons why we Life Coach Code at first, for the first 6 years, was a blog. I was the one writing on the blog, and I was always writing about, I'm passionate about many different topics. So I was writing about the spirit, the mind, the body, the heart, psychology, spirituality, lessons from other people, motivation, and it was all over the place. And then one day, like you said, I sat with myself and I just said, it's not about me. Like, this knowledge that I'm sharing, these topics that I'm just touching around on, there are people that spend entire lives focused on this topic and they're experts at this. Why not focus on finding these people and giving them a platform to share these ideas here? So that's why I focused on looking for extraordinary individuals from all around the world, coaches, experts on different topics, thought leaders, and offering them these interviews and giving them the platform to share their story, but also to share their unique way of coaching and how they help people, what they help people with, share their techniques, their skills, their tools that they're using or maybe invented. And that's the moment when I realized it's not about me, this story was born. And that's one of the main reasons why we are also organizing the Superhuman Summit, because it's about each puzzle piece when you put together that you really become a superhuman. You can work with one coach on a specific thing, on spirituality, let's say, but there are many other pieces that if you put together, you really can unleash your full potential. If you work on your nutrition, if you work on realigning your gut and brain connection, if you work with realigning your heart, brain, and gut connection, if you work on opening your heart, if you work on your mindset, if you work on all of these things at the same time, then you're fully unleashing your complete potential that you carry within yourself as much as you can. And that's the main intent, main reason why we are organizing the summit, why we are organizing in this way, focusing on one fundamental pillar, the spirit, the mind, the body, and the heart. And each of the coaches on each day are masters for this pillar. And they're going to give you a glimpse of the superpower hiding within this pillar from different angles, so you can better understand what this superpower is, so you can harness it and use it in your life. And that's the only way you truly become superhuman. You become who you were born to be. You live your life in a way that's not suppressing your potential, but actually thriving with the potential you were given, and the amazing vehicle and the amazing pillars that you were given, the spirit, the mind, the body, and the heart, and actually using them, learning what they mean and how to use them, not just being automatic. So working with over 25 experts, less than $40. You will not find an opportunity like this. So get your 4-day pass from the link in the description, or go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit and get your 4-day pass from there. Cherie, it was an honor speaking with you. And for the final words on this podcast, do you have anything, any practical tip you can share with the audience to just help them be more, let's say, aligned with their messages? And also,
well, definitely make the plan to come to the Superhuman Summit. That's the first step. There's no excuse for you not to attend. And bring all your friends and all of your colleagues, because it will give you so much food for thought and discussion. It's really, really important. But my quote that I would leave you with is, love yourself, trust your choices, and everything is possible.
That's super powerful. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. If people want to work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at drcherie.com.
Perfect.
drcherie.com.
I love when people have easy ways. They're not spread out. Just one place, go there, you can find everything.
Thank you, Dejan. Such a great opportunity to meet with you.
Thank you so much. And again, it's an honor. And for all of you, again, grab your 4-day pass from the link in the description and see you in the Superhuman Summit, and see you in the next episode.